We are now less than 45 days from April Fool's Day. What long con pranks should be started around now? So you go to Goodwill and you buy a bunch of those random figurines in the housewares department. Then every time you're at a friend's house you leave them a figurine in a weird place. Medicine cabinet. Behind the couch. Under a pillow. Etc. Get some mutual friends to do the same if you can trust them not to rat you out. See how long it takes for them to tell you that they keep finding figurines. My friend went on for months until one day I opened the cabinet under the sink and they all were. So I was like, are we gonna talk about this? And he just went, they just keep appearing out of nowhere. Might be late to comment here, but since there are very little long con ones I'll share mine. About 8 years ago I was living in New Zealand. About 2 weeks before I was to leave the country we were sitting around having our staff drinks at the bar I was working at after our shift. Some of my coworkers were talking about bad tattoos, so I chimed in with those are not as bad as the tattoo of the groundhog I have on my ass. Over the next 2 weeks I managed to talk to people one-on-one and slipped in that they would get to see it if they got me drunk enough at my going away party. Finally the day came and I got everyone who wanted to see the tattoo on one side of the room. I pull down my pants and they stare at my ass for a good 10 seconds before somebody says that they cannot see a thing. I look back and say, oh. He must have gone back into his hole. We spent 2 months in Europe 2 summers ago and rented out the house on Airbnb to cover expenses while gone. One of the renters was a film crew that shot a documentary about a local psychopath who killed a few people. The producers needed a home setting where they could interview witnesses and people who knew the guy or victims. There are plenty of interviews of people describing the murders and how evil this person was that clearly show our living room, guest room and kitchen in the background. My wife was not involved in managing the Airbnb listing, so while I mentioned the film crew to her 2 years ago she never asked what it was about, and I'm sure she has absolutely no idea that this footage exists. I plan on just casually coming across the documentary on April 1st and watch it with her to see her reaction. I've been sending a picture of a creepy clown to a buddy via text from a Google Voice number for 4 months now. Occasionally with a line like, do you wanna hear a joke? Why aren't you home right now when I know he's at the bar? He's asked every one of our friends if it's them other than me, and he now shouts at the bar, oh great, my fucking creepy clown is texting me again anytime he gets the texts. I've now purchased a handful of items from Amazon like a clown nose, similar wig, makeup kit, and his roommates are going to leave them laying around the house where he sits on the couch or in the shared bathroom. Ultimately on April 1st we will be hanging a clown mask in his garage where they hang out after hours after the bar, and we will reveal that it was me doing this. He's either going to be in tears laughing or will surely murder me. Completely worth it when I see him freak out from time to time. When I was a kid, my grandma had a ceiling fan very high up with a long string attached. Every week, my dad would come over while she was at work and cut a tiny portion of the string off. After a few months, my grandma told us how she was worried she had osteoporosis and was shrinking because she can no longer reach the string. It was hilarious, but more than that, it was awesome to see my grandma hitting my dad after he told her. My great-grandpa got his kids to start cracking hard-boiled eggs on their foreheads. Then, on April 1st, he gave my great-uncle a raw egg. Edit, thanks for the silver. A while back I got an app that could send an error message to a computer with customized text. For a few weeks I would send sporadic messages like monitor error 1003 inches. Monitor sync error, etc. On April Fool's Day I sent the message, monitor radiation shield has failed, please step back 5 feet. Maybe not a long con, but you'll need a syringe, and I'd how long that takes to get. Anyway, in 9th grade, me and my friends always stole each other's food at lunch when someone got up to go to the bathroom. So one time I filled White Lindor truffles with ranch and 2 of my friends vomited. Here's how I convinced a friend his house was haunted. Rain-X is the stuff you put on your windshield to keep it from fogging up. Instead, use it to write on your friend's bathroom mirror various haunting phrases. They go into the bathroom, lock the door, get in the shower, and come out to find someone has seemingly written on their bathroom mirror while they thought they were alone. Get out, help me, something more personal, or whatever you like. Every time you want to change the message, just use some dish soap and then glass cleaner. The old penny trick. I did this to my mom and it drove her nuts. Day 1, you leave a penny in an obvious spot where you'd expect to find a penny, and wait for them to find it. Day 2, repeat. Put another penny somewhere else, but obvious. Let them find it. Repeat this off and on for roughly a week. After around a week, they should start to think about it more. Then start leaving them twice a day for the week. On week 3, start leaving them in odd spots that pennies shouldn't exist. Bathroom sink, windowsill, inside their shoes. Get creative. Pillows, inside their pockets if you can manage it. After a while, if done right, it will drive them absolutely mad. I was questionable on its effectiveness when I first started it, but after week 2 my mom was freaking out because she kept finding them. This is more of a day of situation, but it's too good not to share. At my work we clock in by punching in our employee number. Last year one of my coworkers placed a sign on the time clock that read "The time clock has been updated for voice activation. Please state your full name followed by clocking in/out." All day I just heard people yelling at the time clock trying to clock in. It was incredible. My manager was in on it too, so no one was made late because of it. Just good clean fun. This happened last year, months leading up to April Fools. A coworker would send us all photos or just show us photos of his dick with a fake cockroach on it. He was called into HR, but it was a he said, she said, 6+ months in the past, and no evidence showing the actual picture, text. I figured I would order hundreds of fake cockroaches and stash them around his workspace for the coming months. Those following months were hilarious. He never suspected me, he never caught me, but I also gave a ton to other coworkers. Finally, one day he was venting to me about how frustrated he was finding them in his car, in his CNC machine, within his toolbox, falling from his lunchbox, and flying off his windshield when he turned on his wipers that I turned red and just started laughing so hard I was crying. I'll never forget that look from him. All those months of him not knowing and complaining to me. Joke's on me though, I spent like $50 on fake cockroaches. This didn't happen for April Fools, but I did recently have a very long con that worked better than planned. My friend got me with a glitter bomb one time, which she watched me open in my bedroom, right next to my bed. I still found glitter 3 years later when I moved apartments. The bitch. When it happened, I knew she would be wary of a counterattack, so I waited. And I decided not to just wait, but to long con her. I knew she liked candles, so I went for simplicity. I got her a candle that smelled great at first, but eventually burned down to smell awful. Not after an hour, mind you, but after quite a bit of it burned off, giving a very pleasant apple pie scent. Months went by, and I would see it at her place. Burned a little, but not too much. Occasionally I would notice it getting lower, but it was slow going. I got disheartened when I didn't see it any longer, until I noticed that she had moved it to her bedstand, right by where her head would be when she slept. Ah, so sweet. She liked my gift. Cut to many more months having passed. Almost 2 years since I first got her the candle, I get a bunch of angry texts late at night. You asshole. That fucking candle. It reeks in my bedroom. My magnum opus had finally been achieved. It turns out that she had brought her date home that night and put the candle on to set some ambience. As they're getting hot and heavy, they start to smell what she described as pure sewage. It took them 5 minutes to figure out it was the candle and not some sort of sewage backup, Then the smell lingered for an hour. In the end, the guy was a good sport and recognized a quality prank when he sees one, so it didn't ruin anything between them, but to have a long con end that spectacularly was just better than I could have ever hoped for. Edit, whoa. I went to bed and woke up to this being my most upvoted comment ever. Thanks for the gold too. Someone in the comments already posted the right link, but if you haven't found that, this is the type of candle I ordered. https://prankcandles.com/ Bring hand moisturizer to work, and leave it somewhere like the break room. Conspicuously use it, and convince as many other people to use it as possible. On April 1st, replace it with a bottle filled with water-based lube. Oh man, I have 500 bouncy balls at home. I should start doing stuff with them. It wasn't an April Fool's prank, but when I was about 13 I had my best friend come with me to stay at my dad's for the summer. He worked the graveyard shift fixing those old credit card phones on airplanes, and one night we were getting goofy from staying up way too late and my friend thought it would be hilarious to hide every one of our, just laundered, socks around the house, in the fridge in the coffee pot literally everywhere we could think he'd find one at 5 AM when he got home. For some reason, after my friend passed out, I thought it would be even funnier, spoiler it was, if I went back and collected all the socks, put them back where we got them, and pretended like it never happened. I found every single one of the probably 40-50 individual socks we hid and went to sleep. The next morning he giddily runs downstairs and asks my dad, so how'd you enjoy all those socks? Dad naturally had no clue WTF he was talking about, and I played it completely straight to the point he was convinced he had the most ridiculous dream ever. I didn't tell him right away because it was too damn funny. After we got back when summer was over, I told no one not my dad, not my mom, none of my friends and my friend would bring it up once in a while and his version of the story was so well told and hilarious that everyone always got a kick out of it, so I just kept my mouth shut and laughed along, haha. Eventually he went into the Air Force, mind you that was after a good 5 years since the sock dream, and I didn't see him for probably another 4 years. This man told this story to every one of his armed forces buddies over that time and so many friends before that. For almost 10 fucking years I let this go on until finally when he came back to visit after he was out of the force he had a big family welcome home party and the story came up again. At this point many people there had heard the story 100 times and still loved hearing it, and I finally told him, and everyone there, some of which were my own family, and I still had never told a single soul the true story, that the whole thing actually happened and that I had collected every sock afterwards. I don't think any of us laughed that hard in our entire lives. It was such a stupid thing, but his version was so hilarious, but it became such an epic thing that we both still love telling the story of the sock incident to this day, haha. Edit, thanks for the silver. I might have to do a longer write-up of this and post it as its own thing as someone suggested. Edit 2, also thanks for the gold. I'm glad so many other people found this story as funny as we have over the last 20 years. The nameplates at my office job have paper inserts with the cube dweller's name. I am going to print out a bunch of one person's name in smaller fonts, like increments of 0.25. I'm going to start replacing with smaller fonts each day starting March 1st. I know it's not super crazy, but should be fun. Leave an old keyboard on your desk, with the wire pushed down behind your desk. If anyone asks, tell them it wasn't working, so you had yours replaced, but that support will be by to pick it up. On April 1st, plug it into the computer in the queue beside you. When your coworker arrives, do random things, hold down the shift key while they type in their password. Lock their screen if they look away for just a moment. Hit caps lock while they're typing an email. I managed to do this to a coworker for 4 days before he started losing his shit and pulled out all the wires from his PC except power and network. It was hysterical. I work with a group of 5-6 guys. I plan on separately swearing each of them to secrecy, then revealing that one of their coworkers is planning a wicked April Fool's Day gag on them and that we should work to plan an even better one against this schemer. If I do it right, I'll have my coworkers conniving to destroy one another and sit back and watch it all unfold. As long as they don't catch on. Edit, thank you for the gold. Let me also add that I'm a good sport and fully expect to fail at this. However, the epic win that would come from this actually working is a story I'll be able to tell forever. If anyone knows this MASH episode, I'd love to see it. Maybe I can get a pointer or two. Lastly, I can't start too early or they'll figure it out for sure. I'm thinking 2 weeks might be ideal to start stirring up trouble. Update, unfortunately this didn't work, but I'm not giving up on it. Mostly, I blame timing. I work in Cleveland and 2 of the 5 guys I was targeting are going to the Indians home opener and took off the entire day. They were the most likely to buy into the idea. With them out of their picture, I had to try convincing the remaining, more introverted personalities that other introverts were out to get them. I tested the waters, but no one was taking the bait. I'll use this learning experience to prepare for next year. Thanks for all the interest and sorry I don't have a better result for you. Don't know if you can pull this off, but it was of the funnier prank stories I heard on Click and Clack, Car Talk. Some guys worked with another guy who was obsessed with his car's gas mileage, so the coworkers slowly started adding gas to his tank without the owner knowing it, like they'd add 2 cups a day for a week, then the next week, they'd add 3 cups a day, etc. Since the guy was so obsessed, he thought his car was getting better and better gas mileage and was bragging to everyone in the office. Then the guys slowly started to reverse the process. The guy freaked out, everyone laughed. My freshman year of high school I had a teacher that let some of us outside one day to mess around with chalk and dick around. Mostly we just drew fake handicapped spots onto the parking spots. A few days later we come into class and she's crying a lot. Teachers are coming into the room saying stuff like, "Is it true? I'm so sorry." Everyone is super confused and when the bell rings she starts to tell us that a teacher's car was keyed when we were out there and the security footage confirmed it was one of us. She handed letters out to all of the students who went outside that day and told us that it was her last day. The letters were court notices from their campus police officer. People were crying, including me, and freaking out. None of us could even drive, so why would we have keys? On the second page of the documents it said April Fools. I think she was the only one who found it funny at the time, but we all went home and pulled the same prank on our parents with the letters. Not really necessary to do in advance, but my favorite prank I ever did was to my GF at the time. I was pooping and called for her to bring me more toilet paper from the closet. When she stuck her arm through the door to hand it to me, I grazed her hand as I picked it up. I had put some melted chocolate on my fingers, which smeared on her hand. She went dead silent and just said, "What the fuck is that? It's my birthday and I've never been pranked on April 1st. However, I did prank my 8th grade teacher and got into a lot of trouble. He was this annoying, too cool for his job type, said he knew the police, banned not uniforms. Anyhow, he would always walk around and around the classroom, pontificating on whatever, and when he'd pass by his desk he would always step in his trash can to crush the papers. So, I filled the trash can 3/4 with water and topped it off with scrunched up paper. Worked beautifully and I spent the rest of the day on a hallway waiting to be told if I was suspended or not. One April Fool's Day I got a text from a wrong number. It happens, but he was nice so we kept talking from time to time. His name was Jeff. Talked about video games, music. I feel like I made a really great friend. I told all my friends about it. Lasted a few weeks then stopped. Fast forward to the following April Fools and Jeff texted me. I was like, "Oh shit, what's up, man? We texted a bit when finally my friends broke down and said, dude, Jeff has been us the whole time, we just forgot to tell you last year. Edit, I'm so glad you guys enjoyed this. Def take the idea and roll with it. To answer a few questions, this was like 10 years ago. He opened up with something like congrats on the wedding, bro. I notified him he had the wrong number, but he kept the conversation going somehow and I went along with it, enjoying every minute. The number was not an area code I recognized, but later learned my friends generated a fake number using some kind of software. I was kind of miffed at first, but in the end thought it was hilarious. To this day I still miss Jeff and hope he's living a happy, non-existent life.